Okay, so you know how it feels these days, right? Like we are just drowning in data.
Yeah,
Every click, like everything you buy online, it's
right.
like it's all being tracked and analyzed.
Yeah, it really is.
And like, sure, more information can be helpful sometimes, but sometimes it just feels like you're trying to drink from a fire hose.
It really does.
Yeah, and for folks like you especially, who are all about using your time wisely,
Absolute
who
grind.
has the time to be sifting through all this data just to try to find one little insight.
It can feel impossible.
Exactly. And that is why I am so excited about our deep dive today, because we're looking at this blog post by this qualitative research expert, Suzanne Fries, and let me tell you,
Okay.
she had some thoughts about how we're all doing data analysis wrong,
Mm-hmm.
especially in market research.
Interesting. Okay.
She does not hold back at all.
Okay.
She basically calls out the entire market research industry for caring way too much about how much data they have,
Mm-hmm.
instead of, like, the quality of the analysis.
I see it.
She actually even uses the word insane at one point
Real.
to describe some of the data sets that she's seen. Like,
Right.
just picture this, 25 in-depth interviews, and then on top of that, another 4 focus groups.
Oh my God.
And it's like they want all of that analyzed in a month,
Yeah, that's just not.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's way too much.
Yeah, it's so relatable to this idea that like
Yeah.
you're just buried in data and you're feeling the pressure to
Yeah.
get these like insights and you have to deliver them yesterday, but deep down you're like, I am barely scratching the surface.
Exactly. And she gets it. But
Yeah.
Fries gets it. But here's where it gets really, really interesting.
Okay.
She actually went to ChatGPT
What?
and asked it to define
Oh, wow.
in-depth analysis.
Wow.
Just to show the difference between like actual in-depth analysis and like these rushed analyses that
Yeah.
plague so many research projects these days.
Yeah, okay.
And you know what ChatGPT said?
What'd it say?
Systematic and detailed examination,
Okay.
uncovering patterns, themes, and meanings.
Interesting.
All the good stuff, all the stuff that we should be doing.
Yeah.
But she's saying this kind of deep understanding, it's just impossible when you're racing against the clock
Totally.
with this mountain of data.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And that is where the true cost of this like surface level analysis
Right.
becomes really clear.
For sure, because then instead of making decisions like based on real insights, you're just making decisions based on incomplete data or misleading data.
Totally.
And so then that translates to, missed opportunities for innovation, products that totally miss the mark.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, just money wasted.
Yeah. And like she really emphasizes the importance of ROI,
Which is
return on investment.
right.
And it's true.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to invest the time and resources into doing analysis the right way,
Yeah.
you're not going to see the return.
Of course not.
It's that simple.
It makes total sense.
But the best part is, Fries doesn't just like leave us hanging with this problem.
Right. She actually gives us this perfect example of how to do like deep, insightful analysis without needing like tons and tons of data.
Cool.
And get this, she uses a single comment from a parenting blog.
Really?
Yeah, just like a couple sentences.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that about Fries, that she's all about showing, not just telling. And this example is perfect for that.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so simple, but it really proves her point.
Right. Okay, so like imagine the commenter's talking about what it's like to be a mom, right?
Okay.
And she uses the words motherhood and mom,
Mm-hmm.
which seems pretty standard.
Right.
But Fries picks up on this really interesting thing.
What's that?
She points out that motherhood sounds kind of formal, almost institutional,
Right.
But mom is like personal and emotional and intimate.
Yeah, totally. And so the fact that this commenter is using both of those words in the same comment, it suggests there's this tension between the expectations that society puts on mothers and like the real messy experience of actually being a mom.
Absolutely. And that is so smart how she's picking up on those little differences in language because it shows you how much more you can learn from like the way people say things than from just like asking them questions directly.
It's true.
And the other thing is like she's not just focused on this one commenter's experience. She's using it to make a point about like the pressure and expectations that all mothers face.
Yes.
Which I think is really powerful.
It's like she found this secret code or something.
I know, right?
And it gets even better because then she focuses on 2 other words that the commenter uses.
Oh.
Rough and forced.
Yeah.
So on the surface, you might think, okay, well, being a mom is hard, obviously.
Yeah.
But freeze looks deeper.
Okay.
She starts thinking about all the different ways that we use those two words.
Interesting.
Like a rough day or rough around the edges.
Yeah.
You know, those are about something that's difficult, maybe a little unpolished.
Yeah.
And then forced implies that you don't really have a choice, you know? Like, I forced my way through the crowd.
Right.
And this part is really important because she's forcing herself to think about those two words in totally different ways.
Right.
And that's how she's able to uncover these, like, hidden meanings that nobody else would even notice.
That's so...
I know, and that's when it gets really, really interesting because when you put all these clues together, the rough and the forced, the fact that the commenter mentions she's only 25, it makes you think maybe this wasn't a planned pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And suddenly there's this whole other layer to the story about the unique pressures that young mothers face.
Absolutely.
And how different their experience is from what society expects.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think this all came from one comment on a blog.
It's incredible, and this is exactly why Freeze's approach is so powerful.
Right.
Because it's not about collecting as much data as possible, you know? It's about going deep and finding those hidden meanings.
Totally.
And the universal truths about the way people behave. And that is so valuable for anybody who wants to understand their audience or make a product that people really connect with.
It's true. And here's the really crazy part. Remember that blog comment was from way back in 2010.
Right.
Like, that's over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like a whole different world now.
Totally. Yeah, like...
So much has changed, like, with technology and just culture.
Yeah. And Freeze even points this out, that it's interesting how... Even though the world has changed, this analysis, this concept is still relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because even though the world is different now, those feelings of becoming a parent, they haven't really changed that much.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's like, this is what I think is so cool. This idea that, like, yes, specific data, it gets old. But the truth is, like, people
don't really change that much in, like, the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And it made me think about this quote by Roger Martin.
Okay.
And it's basically that data has this one big limitation, which is that it's only about the past.
Right.
So if we're only focused on what's already happened, how can we ever plan for the future, you know?
That's such a good point.
It's like you're always one step behind.
Yeah.
And this is why I think this kind of, like, qualitative approach is so important.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about the data.
It's about understanding people.
Yes, exactly.
Like their motivations.
Yes.
And then you can kind of, like, guess what they might want in the future.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like you're using those deep insights to make decisions that are, like, actually going to be relevant in the future.
Instead of just, like, based on what people did, like, 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Which, who knows if that even matters anymore.
Right. Who knows? It might not.
Okay, so basically what we learned today is don't drown in data.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Put on your thinking caps, use your right brain, and really try to understand those deeper meanings.
Yes.
And, you know, this isn't just about market research.
Yeah.
This is about, like, anytime you're trying to understand people.
Absolutely.
Whether it's your customers or your coworkers or your kids.
Or even just yourself.
Yes, even yourself.
Right.
Like, put down the spreadsheets and really think.
Think. Exactly.
Okay, and that brings us to our final thought for today.
Okay.
So we've been talking about how important it is to, like, really use your brain to analyze things.
Right.
But what if AI could do that?
Oh.
Like, what if AI could be empathetic and understand people on a deeper level?
That is a really good question.
I know, right?
Something to think about.
I don't have an answer.
Me neither.
But let us know what you think, because until next time, that is it for the deep dive.